Quentin Tarantino is one of the best directors of all time, and I am so excited to be ranking his movies from worst to best. Let's just get started. And at last place, we have Jackie Brown.
Don't say one fucking word, okay?
Okay, Lewis.
And before you grab a shotgun and blow me across the room, just hear me out. I like this movie a lot, like a lot. I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10. Pam Grier is absolutely incredible, and I do love how kind of laid back this movie is. The biggest thing holding this movie back for me is that I did not find a plot engaging. I was invested in the Pam Grier character of Jackie Brown, but not really the plot that was centered around her. You know, there's a whole police investigation thing going on. There's like this heist scheme going on later on.
Huh? They're awful. It's a fucking farce. Yeah, many you see too. I've seen enough.
And all the laid back random conversation moments where they're just hanging out. I found those scenes to be some of the best scenes. Like that scene where Samuel L. Jackson and Robert De Niro are just like hanging out, and he's watching like the TV commercials about the guns and stuff, and he's describing each gun and why some customers don't know about a certain gun and why certain guns are more popular than other guns.
This here is a style og. Style og's a bad motherfucker. Listen.
I have a hot take. Samuel L. Jackson's character in this movie is just as cool as his character in Pulp Fiction. I said it. I've been holding it in for way too long. I don't give a shit who has a problem with that. Samuel L. Jackson in this movie is absolutely the best part.
W's in the shot. W's in the shot.
Robert De Niro. I love his character in this movie. He's like this really reserved, laid back guy, but sometimes like this guy has anger issues. Sometimes he goes from 0 to 100 like way too fast. Bridget Fonda. Nobody respects Bridget Fonda more than me. I love her character in this movie. You know, she's always shit talking Samuel L. Jackson. And that scene between Samuel L. Jackson and Chris Tucker, that's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. And I'm the biggest Chris Tucker fan on this planet. There is literally no one on this planet that could rival me in Chris Tucker glaze. There needs to be a law that Chris Tucker needs to be in every single movie, and every single movie that has not had Chris Tucker, they need to go back and make a special edition and digitally insert him into the movie, alright? Like, imagine Chris Tucker in 2001: A Space Odyssey. It will be 100% better.
You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody.
I don't give a fuck.
Bruh.
You got knocked the fuck out.
Anyways, look, we're getting sidetracked with all this Chris Tucker glaze. And my biggest issue with this movie is these two cops. Michael Keaton, look, I love Michael Keaton. Nobody respects Michael Keaton more than me. I might cry later because I criticized these scenes that Michael Keaton is a large part of, but I'm gonna be honest, these scenes are well done, they're well shot, they're, you know, it's competently made. Another issue I have with this movie, which is mostly related to those two bullshit cops that I always complain about, is the runtime. This movie is, I would say, 15 to 20 minutes too long, and it's literally all of those cop scenes.
I don't even think you really know what a bad day is.
And the dynamic relationship between Pam Grier and Robert Forster, I really liked, but I didn't love as much as I wanted to. But I really do like a lot of things that this movie says about aging, and you're passing a certain time of your life where you just can't start over and stuff like that. And, you know, I find that topic pretty emotional, like getting older, you can't do what you used to do. Like, that topic really gets to me if it's done very well. And this movie almost hits the bullseye, but not really. It hit the edge of the bullseye, if you know what I mean. That means it's a good thing. That's a compliment. Some parts of the heist, especially Robert De Niro and Bridget Fonda, some of those scenes are comedic gold, like absolutely laugh out loud scenes. Remember, I like this movie a lot, 7.5 out of 10, that's a great rating. And I love the vibes. This movie could be really vibey at times, which is literally one of, if not the biggest compliment, like, of all time.
Like you.
At number 8, we have Death Proof. Listen, this and Jackie Brown are very close. I do have a love for exploitation movies, and this movie is a clear love letter to that genre, or subgenre, whatever the hell you want to call it. Hurt Russell is one of the coolest actors of all time, and if you disagree, you are objectively wrong, and I genuinely hope you step on a Lego. Another thing I really like this movie is the first half. It has this whole aesthetic where like all the scratches, like that grimy look. I found that thing so immersive, and I wish the entire movie was like that. This movie is insanely vibey.
Get your shit and get off the lawn.
This movie doesn't have as many great dialogue scenes as like Jackie Brown, for example. Some of the scenes in this movie involving car crashes are simply viscerally magnetic chaos greatness. I really like the first half of this movie a lot more than the second half, although the second half has something that, woo, we'll get to that later. But anyways, look.
It's official, old buddy. Who has been?
One of my favorite scenes in any Tarantino movie is the scene where the first group of girls get axed off. And it's not really the way they went out, that's like not even half of it. The reason I love it so much is the editing and the music, and simply the stunt, like the car crash itself, exactly how it went down. It's one of those scenes where it couldn't have been better in any other way. And which is a rare thing to say. I am saying in every single timeline of the entire multiverse, we live in the best timeline in regarding of the scene of the first girls getting axed off. We do. We live in the best timeline. There's also this one really eerie moment where Kurt Russell is taking this girl into his car, so she gets in, and before he gets in, he just looks at the camera and just like smiles at you. And I found that so like off-putting. I'm like, oh, like dang. Dang, I felt threatened. I was about to call the cops. I'm not even joking. But anyways, look. That freaking car chase. Car chases, especially practical car chases, real stunts, is literally my bread and butter. It's literally what I live for. And the one in this movie is groundbreaking. It is. It's literally one of the best chase scenes I've ever seen. Zoe Bell, I'm simply speechless with the stunts she was able to pull off, going insane speeds. But look, the fact that we didn't have an Oscar for Best Stunt Performer is absolute bullshit, and that's all I have to say about that. And yeah, the reason this movie isn't any higher is because I already said the dialogue is not as nearly as great as some of his other movies. The characters in this movie are not as great as some of his other movies, and the story itself didn't really blow me away. But again, this is a great vibe, great soundtrack, and a lot of fun. Also, the scene where Kurt Russell gets shot in the arm, I thought was absolutely hilarious.
Well, adios.
Embarrass yourself like that in front of all those goddamn people. Fucking bullshit.
And number 7, we have Reservoir Dogs. Now, this is where the movies just start getting into that 9 out of 10 amazing levels, right? And Reservoir Dogs, I remember I watched this movie when I was 12 for the first time, and I immediately fell in love with it. And this was Tarantino's debut, and from the first scene, you can tell that this director knows what's up. Simply the camera movement is rotating around the people as they're talking, and simply the dialogue, how funny and witty it is, just the timing of it.
Day, night, afternoon. Dick, 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 dick.
How many dicks is that? A lot.
This movie has so many great characters, my favorite character being Mr. White. Harvey Keitel, dude, I'm such a big Keitel fan, and Mr. White is one of the best Tarantino characters of all time, and that is a huge statement. And also Mr. Pink Steve Buscemi, him and his camaraderie with Mr. White and them butting heads here and there and just discussing what the hell goes on about that heist and how each person remembers it differently, and they're like, no, that didn't happen, it went, this happened, or that came first before that thing. It was so engaging, dude. I could only imagine just walking into this movie blind. You're like, okay, it's like some first director, some dickhead's first movie. Let's see what he's got. And then within the first 30 minutes, you're absolutely blown away and your pants are off for some reason. And one of the best things about this movie is that it's presented in a non-linear way. And if it was, it would not even be nearly half as good. Maybe half. But still, you kind of wondering who the hell the rat is very engaging, and then when you find out, you're like, oh shit. But yeah, like, I absolutely love this movie. Mr. Blonde, dude, that stuck in the middle with you scene, one of the best scenes in any Tarantino movie. I also love this shot that the camera follows Steve Buscemi and stops behind him as he unloads a whole clip onto the cops. Like, I found the way they filmed that so engaging. I found it remarkable. And I am so glad this movie came out exactly when it did, because this movie has been so influential over time. And Tarantino works very well with limitations, because most of this movie is just dialogue, and some of these scenes that is just dialogue are some of amongst the best Tarantino scenes there is. Yeah, this movie has a lot of great moments, a lot of great subtext throughout, and one thing that I always loved is the ending, dude. I remember, like, oh, dude, when I first watched this movie, I was simply blown away. Mr. Blonde, the scene where he gets taken out is so satisfying, despite him being one of the best Tarantino characters, but just that finally, like, he's getting taken out, like, so satisfying. The reason this movie isn't any higher is because Mr. Orange is one of my least favorite Tarantino protagonists, although I do like his character a lot. Tim Roth is absolutely incredible. Also, the third act does kind of drag at times, where it's showing Mr. Orange like rehearsing. I don't know, I just didn't find those scenes too engaging. By the way, Nice Guy Eddie, dude, every single character in this movie is great. Yeah, and the performances of this movie are simply incredible. Tim Roth, that scene, he's in pain because of the gunshot wound, is some of the best acting, like, hurt performances I've seen. Like, I was so concerned for him, and his acting was so convincing. I was about to call the ambulance myself.
Stop pointing that fucking gun at my dad! Fucking gun at my dad!
And at number 6, I got Kill Bill 1 and 2. But like Tarantino says, we gotta count them as one movie, which I do. Because if I counted them individually, I do like 2 more than 1, even though number 1 has that amazing third act with a crazy 8-8, but we'll get to that a little bit later. And from the opening scene, I was absolutely invested and emotionally on board. I love movies that vaguely kind of map out what the movie is gonna be. She has to take out these 4 mini bosses, and then it's on to Bill. So just when I knew that, I was like, dude, I love this shit. And Uma Thurman was absolutely incredible as the bride. From the very first fight scene where she runs upon Vivica A. Fox, I was like, oh my dude, I'm gonna love this movie. You know, they're fighting, the choreography was amazing. Nobody loves martial arts more than me. They're beating the shit out of each other, they're breaking the house, they're talking shit. And I love those parts where the bride gets flashbacks and we hear that iconic sound, like, like, I just love that small little aspect to it. It adds a lot. And I love that Kiss Kiss Bang Bang song. The soundtrack in this movie is absolutely incredible, and I love the aspect of the bride that she is not here to forgive anyone, where Vivica A. Fox is like saying, like, oh, I settled down, I have a daughter, this and that, and she's like, no, you are not forgiven until I take your head off. And one of my biggest issues with the movie is that whole anime sequence that fills in some of the backstory. I'm just not a big fan of the presentation of that scene, like, at all. It breaks my immersion. I don't really enjoy watching it. I get it, it's trying some experimental, something new, but it did not work for me, like, pretty much at all. Every single time I rewatch this movie, that sequence is kind of a chore to get through. And I really like that hospital sequence where this weird, creepy, piece of shit weirdo nurse is doing the weird shit he's doing, and I found that sequence so disturbing, but also very satisfying, based on what the bride does to him and one of his clients or whatever. I really like the part where she visits Japan and visits Hanzo, and him and his coworker are arguing, they're talking shit, they're about to scrap, and it's pretty hilarious. And then once she reveals why she's there, it's like, oh shit, like, this is going on, like, it's fleshing out the lore, and I love that scene. I also love movies with mini bosses and how each mini boss has their distinct personality and their own style or whatever. I just love that shit. I can't get enough. The action in this movie, oh my lord, is absolutely remarkable in every single aspect you could possibly think of. That whole scene where she runs up on the villain in Japan and she has to fight that go-go schoolgirl with that freaking ball. I love that fight scene so much. Like, literally, some of the greatest shit action I've seen is in the third act of this movie. The crazy 88 fight scene, and they're all like jumping in, trying to get her all at once, but she's actually defending herself. She jumps up on this guy's shoulders, and then she does like a front flip and cuts a dude in half. Bro, like, dude, Uma Thurman was just straight aura farming in the third act. I just love how bloody it is. I love how practical it is. I just love the energy. I love the music. And then when she finally runs up on Lucy Liu, the quietness at first, the production design with the snow falling, and then the music kicks in. Oh my lord, the music. The music in that scene, I got like 10 heart attacks because it was just so good. And then the fight scene itself was, oh my, dude. Like, I don't know what to say. Go watch that scene right now. Go. Go. And in Volume 2, we finally meet David Carradine as Bill. Oh my lord, this is one of my favorite villains. Oh my lord is one of the best Tarantino characters. Oh my lord, this guy was the best character in every single scene he was in. And I do like Volume 2 more than Volume 1 because it fleshes out the backstory. Her training with Pai Mei. Pai Mei is like making fun of her, smacking her around, saying that she's like lower than dog shit and how, you know, she's useless, this and that. I love those training scenes. More flashbacks with David Carradine as Bill. And it fleshes out that dynamic relationship with Uma Thurman, and I absolutely adore those scenes. But also, Michael Madsen, I love his character so much in this movie. It's absolutely hilarious. And I just like that scene where he's getting chewed out by his strip club boss or whatever. He's making fun of his hat and calling him a useless sack of shit. I love that scene. And I love that scene where the bride finally runs up on Bud, and then you're like, okay, she's gonna sneak attack him or whatever, and then she suddenly opens the door and she gets blown across by a freaking shotgun. Dude, when I first watched that, I shit myself. She gets buried alive by Bud and his creepy weirdo friend or whatever. I couldn't stand that guy. I don't even know why. I have no idea why, but that little weird henchman of Bud, that guy, I don't know why, got on my nerves so much to an extent that doesn't even make sense. But I hate that character's existence, and screw that guy. And I love that sequence where Ellie Driver is going to Bud's house because he's trying to sell her the Hanzo sword for like $1 million, and then, you know, he opens the thing and is counting the money, and then boom, Snake just attacks him and starts biting him. I also love the flashbacks where Bill is like playing that flute around the campfire and just telling stories. I love that scene so much. I want an entire 4-hour movie where it's just Bill playing the flute around the campfire and just telling stories, man. I'd watch that and it would probably be a 10 out of 10. One of the best movies I've ever seen. And I'm not even joking. And then that fight scene between the bride and Ellie Driver, that fight scene was so good. She's going on to find Bill. One scene that kind of dragged a little too long is that Esteban scene. I'm just not a big fan of that scene or his character. I get that it had to be there, but I just thought it went on for a little bit too long, but you know, whatever. When she finally meets Bill and then, you know, her daughter, I was like, I am so invested. I'm literally just like sitting down and just like, what's his next words? What is she gonna say? What is he gonna say? I was just so invested. It felt like I was watching like two real people discussing, you know, really private shit, and I'm just a fly on the wall. It was good shit. And that final sequence between the bride and Bill, just that entire conversation, and inevitably, you know, the fight itself and the resolution, that entire sequence is one of my favorite Tarantino sequences of all time. And that is a huge statement. That's a huge statement. I just made a big statement right there. Dude, I can't glaze this movie enough. 9 out of 10, bro. Okay, now we're getting into the places where all of these movies are basically 10 out of 10s and they're kind of interchangeable except for the number one. The number one has been number one for a very long time and I don't think it's ever gonna change. Yeah, this used to be my second favorite Tarantino movie and it's still not far from being my second, even though it's number 5. Number 5, 4, 3, and number 2 are almost interchangeable, but not really, but they're very close in quality in how much I love them and how much I value them and how badly I would take a bullet to preserve these movies. You get my point. This is one of the most vibiest movies of all time. I love the practicality. I love that they went on location. They went to that, you know, super snow, super freezy weather. And I just love the carriage ride. That entire first 45 minutes when they're just on the carriage ride. Honestly, I wish that scene was like 3 hours long, just that scene. And then the rest of the movie plays out how it does. It's just so cozy. Like, this is one of those movies where when it's super cold, you know, like I kind of open the window, I get a little blanket around myself, you know, with some hot chocolate or hot coffee, you know, and I watch it, you know, like, ooh, the vibes. The dialogue in this movie is some of the best in Tarantino's filmography, and that's a huge statement. The music in this movie is absolutely incredible. Every single song in this movie, I'm like, you know, I'm just doing this, you know, I'm just feeling it. I'm feeling the vibes. And Kurt Russell and Walton Goggins literally steal this movie. This movie's super rewatchable for me, especially the first half. And when they get to Minnie's haberdashery itself, it's vibey, it's cozy, there's fireplace, people are wearing blankets and stuff. Oh my god, I just love it, man. I just love the mystery of it. It's like, oh, is he in on it? Is he in on it? What's going on? What's really going on? And once, you know, shit really goes down, it's just like, oh shit, oh no. I'm invested from beginning to end. And there's a lot of funny moments, like when Daisy spits on the Lincoln letter and just gets sucked out of the carriage and Kurt Russell goes out flying with her. And then when Channing Tatum out of nowhere comes and just starts shooting Samuel L. Jackson, I was like, I shit myself doing that. And I was like, what the hell? I did not expect that whatsoever. And then when he comes out of the basement and he gets his head blown off, and then Daisy just starts like freaking out crying. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of felt bad for her in that specific moment. I was like, oh, like, dang, like, her sibling's head just got blown off and his brain matter's all on her and whatever. Like, I don't know, I found that scene kind of got to me. They're all hateable. It is called the Hateful Eight. The only, like, the best character in terms of, like, morality, I guess, is, like, the stagecoach driver. And he's constantly getting shitted on. He has the worst luck. I felt so bad for that dude. The only reason this movie is not as high as some of the other movies is I think that the third act kind of goes on for a little too long. But other than that, I love this movie. I consider it like a flawed masterpiece. And Michael Madsen, Tim Roth, Channing Tatum, Bruce Dern, like, dude, there was a lot of great characters in this movie. At number 4, I got Pulp Fiction. This movie is so fun to watch. It's absolutely hilarious. It is rewatchable. It's a vibe. And I just love how it's structured, you know, the date, the hit where Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta are going out to take out those guys, and then we get the, you know, cleaning up Marvin's mess, and then we get the Zed and Bruce Willis sequence. Like, dude, this movie is so freaking wild, and I love every aspect of it.
Ah, you motherfucker!
And all my favorite scenes are when the characters are literally just talking, you know, the whole Royale with Cheese conversation, when they're talking about if it was an act of God or just luck, Mia and John Travolta date sequence, and then they start dancing or whatever. I love the setting, literally the scene where he's talking to his drug dealer and he's complaining about his car getting stolen. And this movie is so hilarious. The whole shooting Marvin in the face, you know, indirectly insulting the dude's girlfriend. This movie is incredibly rewatchable, and the soundtrack, oh my lord, dude. There's a reason this is like his most popular movie. It's the reason where it officially put him on the map. Everyone was taking notice on Reservoir Dogs, but this movie is where it's like, oh my lord, this guy is him. And out of all the main stories, I like the Bruce Willis one the least, but I still love it. I love the Marcellus Wallace character. I love his interaction with Bruce Willis. And then, you know, the whole Zed sequence. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? This movie is freaking wild. This is like a great hangout movie, and I mean that in the best way possible. The character roster in this movie, like literally all like A tier, S tier characters. Mia Wallace, Marcellus Wallace, Jules Winfield, Samuel L. Jackson absolutely steals every scene he's in. Dude, Vincent, John Travolta, literally top 3 favorite Tarantino characters of all time. Of all time. You got the wolf, you got his drug dealer, you know, the whole, I gotta stab her 3 times, you know, that scene. This movie's absolutely hilarious. I don't even know what to say that hasn't already been said. This movie, there's a reason it's influential. There's a reason it's so popular. There's a reason that it's still in the cultural zeitgeist. This movie's incredible. God, I love it. Like, this movie could also be my number 2 or my number 3. It's that close, but for now, it's number 4, and I love it. It's the 10 out of 10. It's a 10 out of 10. And at number 3, I got Inglourious Basterds. One of the best opening scenes of all time. One of the best villains of all time in Christoph Waltz's Hans Landa. And that first scene, the tension and how visceral, like, you're just like, you're biting your nails. Like, you're biting your nails. And that scene is like the 3rd or 4th best scene in the entire movie. We haven't even got to the bar sequence. The bar sequence, oh my lord. The bar sequence might actually be some of the best cinema I've ever experienced in my entire life. From beginning to end, some of the best shit I've ever seen. Every minor character had lasted an impression on me. Every line left a mark. Every music note left a freaking mark. The Hugo Stiglitz introduction. Dude, that actor is so good. He says so much without literally saying anything. And Brad Pitt in this movie, literally like S tier Tarantino character, which says a lot, and it's one of his best performances, if not his best. And we see the scene where the bear Jew gets introduced, and that scene's so iconic, so brutal, so entertaining. And I love the music before that happens, where he's walking up and he's like, oh shit, like I'm about to die. And you know, they're building him up and he's hitting the bat before he even gets out of the tunnel. You're like, what's going on? What's going on? You're like gripping your chair. And then after that guy freaking dies or whatever, the next German soldier is just like, oh, they're right here. They're carrying this kind of ammunition, this and that. He's just telling them everything, which was absolutely hilarious. And I love that plot line with Shoshana and how she's trying to seek revenge But Frederick Zoller, Daniel Bruhl's character, he keeps hitting on her, and she's like, go away, this and that, and how you see all the other Germans, how they treat him and put him on this pedestal. And I love the fact that they actually spoke German and French, because I don't really like it when like historical or alternate history regardless, like everyone just speaking English all the time. Like, I don't know, it just kind of breaks my immersion. I don't know what to tell you. And this is a pretty fast moving movie. This is like Tarantino's fastest paced movie. And Michael Fassbender, dude, nobody loves Michael Fassbender more than me. Nobody. And the bar sequence, he absolutely killed it. And that German officer, the main dude that runs up and he points his gun at his wiener, that actor that played the German officer, he was so good. Like, if there was a category for like best actor in like one scene, that guy should have won it. I'm not even joking. Dude, the casting in this movie was perfect. And I don't drop that word lightly. The casting in this movie was perfect. And then that one scene where Shoshana's talking to Goebbels, and then Hans Landa comes out of nowhere, and then the music starts playing. You're like, oh my god, you know, it just catches you off guard. And I like how Tarantino like shows a lot of the cooking and the food stuff. I really like that stuff. It adds a lot. It really does. It adds a lot. It adds a lot. And this movie could be absolutely hilarious at times, especially when Brad Pitt, him and his homies are disguised as Italian directors, and they go in the theater, and it turns out that Hans Landa speaks Italian, and he's speaking Italian to them. Then they're just trying to figure out what the hell to say, and it's absolutely hilarious. And the action in this movie is absolutely incredible. They're usually short, but they pack a lot of intensity. They pack freaking gut punches. You're like, oh shit, you feel the bullets, the practical bullets. And this movie has one of my favorite death scenes in any movie history, just based off the execution of the death scene. And that's the death scene of Shoshana. The music, the slow-mo, literally everything about that scene was literally masterful. That was a perfect scene. That was like, dude, Tarantino popped off. He literally popped off in this entire movie. There's not a single scene that I don't like. Not a single scene that I don't like in this movie. And this movie is a masterpiece. I think this just might be my masterpiece. Damn right, that was Tarantino right there telling us, this is my masterpiece right here. Take it. Take it and enjoy it. And at number 2, I got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is Tarantino's vibiest movie, and that means a lot. That is one of the best compliments I could ever give a movie. Just the feeling of this movie, just watching it makes me feel so good, and just makes me feel so happy to be alive and to be able to watch this movie, because I'm dead. I can't watch this movie and catch a vibe. I can't. Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie, literally his second best performance, and it's top 3, maybe top 4 favorite Tarantino characters, maybe even top 2. And that is a huge compliment. You know, his character as this struggling actor, he's not where he wants to be, and it's absolutely hilarious to see him come to terms with that and see what he does and tries to fix the situation. Stuntman Brad Pitt, he also killed it. I don't have too much to say about this movie, even though it's like my second favorite. I just love the setting. I love movies about that time in Hollywood. And dude, the driving scenes. I know people are like, oh, this movie has like 80 driving scenes. It should have 80 more driving scenes. It should have 80,000 more driving scenes. I love the driving scenes in this movie, if you couldn't tell. If this movie feels so alive, it feels so real. Like, it just feels like a time capsule in a way, even though it's alternate history. You get my point. You get my point. I can watch this movie pretty much every day. I literally can. I'm not even joking. And that scene where like DiCaprio, like literally the first scene where he's talking to Al Pacino, we're seeing, you know, scenes from the shows and movies he's been in and what Pacino's talking about. And he's like, oh yeah, me and the missus, we watched 2 movies and then she went to bed and I watched one by myself. And then it shows like him just like making a drink and sitting back, relaxing, watching. I love that scene so. That was a 10 out of 10 scene. I'm not even joking. That was the best scene in the movie. One of the best Tarantino scenes of all time. And I know, like, a lot of people might say, you know, like, yeah, it was a good scene. It was a good scene. But really, like, one of the best. Yes. Yes. It was my shit. I feel like this movie was, like, made for me in a way. That scene where Kurt Russell and Brad Pitt and then DiCaprio's trying to convince him and he's like, oh, he killed his freaking wife. And then we see the flashback. Kurt Russell, that guy doesn't slip. He never slips up. So let me talk about the things that I don't like. That Bruce Lee scene. As a big Bruce Lee fan, I know the reputation of him being like, you know, not the nicest guy of all time sometimes, but even with that taken into account, Just the scene in general, I didn't really like the scene until Kurt Russell and his wife came in and they just started yelling at Brad Pitt, talking shit to him. That scene was funny, and the other scene that I don't really love is that little girl scene with the DiCaprio where, you know, she's reading and then DiCaprio is like sitting by her, and I thought that scene just went on a little too long, that specific scene. The other scenes with them were incredible, and I love those scenes. But that scene I thought went a little bit too long, and also that other scene where Brad Pitt tries to visit his old friend and the teenagers, the cult around him. I'm just saying that scene kind of drags until he punches the shit out of one of the dudes and makes him fix his tire. That scene was great. That part was absolutely immaculate. Margot Robbie, Sharon Tate, the scene where she just goes to the theater and she's like, I'm in the movie, and she's watching the movie. The finale, dude. The finale was so satisfying to watch. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful scene. I don't know what else to say. Oh my lord. And the scene where DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, they're just relaxing and watching an episode of their show, and they're like kind of commentating over it. And he's like, oh, right in the face, what a shotgun. You know, like just their comments. I need an 8-hour movie with those two characters just hanging out. And I'm not joking. Make it right now. Because I think that movie might be like the best movie of all time. Like top 4 best movies of all time, that movie. Apparently there's like a 5-hour cut of that movie somewhere. Release that shit now. Hashtag release the Tarantino cut. Right now. Let's get that shit going right now. Because I need that shit. I need that shit bad. I need that shit. It's one of my favorite comfort movies. It's his most rewatchable movie. In my opinion, it's his vibiest movie. I love it. I adore this movie. And at number 1, and it's been my number 1 since I very first watched it. It was the very first Tarantino movie I've ever watched. I think I was on Comcast On Demand, and I just saw some of the trailer. I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. Let's put it on. I like Westerns. And, you know, I rented it for like $5 or whatever. And in the middle, I'm just like, this movie is special. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life at that point. I was like 12, 11 years old maybe. This movie is the best Tarantino movie. It has the best dialogue. It has the best music. It's the best shot Tarantino movie. It's the best lit Tarantino movie. It's the most inspirational Tarantino movie. It has the best Tarantino villain. It has the best Tarantino freaking action scene. It has the best Tarantino scene in general. This movie is a masterpiece beyond human comprehension, and I don't give a shit what anyone has to say about it. I love it. Dude, I'll die for this movie. I don't even give a shit. If the last copy of this movie was in a burning building, I would go into that building and I would carry it. I would be like, take it. As I'm like burning like Anakin in episode 3. I was like, take it, take it. You save the movie, save the last copy. Let me burn it. It's okay. I'll take a hit for the team. I will. But anyways, look. Jamie Foxx and Christoph Waltz. Absolutely incredible. Look, the opening scene, Django. I love this soundtrack. Django and Christoph Waltz in the winter era when they're just trying to collect, money and bounties. And then that song when they're just on horses or whatever. I love that song so much. Like, I don't even know what to say. I have to make a video specifically about this one movie. The opening scene, absolute banger. There's not a single bad scene in this entire movie. Jamie Foxx as Django, one of the most badass characters of all time. Kerry Washington knocked it out of the park. Christoph Waltz, this guy does not miss. He is goated, but he should not have won the Oscar because Leonardo DiCaprio should have won for this movie. This is DiCaprio's best performance. This is Tarantino's best villain. Yes, even cooler than Hans Landa. I said it. One of my favorite villains in cinema history. I'm talking top 5, maybe even top 4, maybe even top 3. We'll get to that conversation one day, but DiCaprio in this movie, I literally can't glaze enough. Samuel L. Jackson, this guy was so good in this movie, so iconic, so hilarious, so engaging to watch. The whole Big Daddy ranch sequence, amazing. The music in this movie, the Django Unchained soundtrack, one of the best things that ever encountered these ears of all time. Like literally like the best sounding shit of all time. Tarantino is a master at picking which song for which scene. He is literally a master at that. The action in this movie, the blood squibs are so satisfying. And I will say that the final shootout, the shootout in Candyland at the end, One of, if not the best shootout I've ever experienced in my entire life. And yes, Heat had a great shootout, but I think this one in this movie is even better. And one day we'll make a video best shootouts of all time. Put your money on this shootout being the number one of that video. That whole dinner sequence where they're just, having dinner, DiCaprio, and they're talking about, the fighting sport or whatever. That is the best. I think that might be the best Tarantino sequence of all time. That sequence, the conversation to the part where they find out what Django and Christoph Waltz is up to, and then the shootout itself. One of the best transcendent pieces of art that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And this movie is absolutely hilarious. The whole mask scene. This is one of the most satisfying movies I've ever experienced, and I adore this movie. It's a masterpiece. It's a 10 out of 10. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And that was it for today. What is your favorite Tarantino movie? What is your ranking from beginning to end? I'm very curious and I genuinely do want to know. Put it down in the comments below. Thank you guys. Bye.
I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist.